Hi there, this is John Drew here from Elevated Planet.
And Jolie Gabrielle from Elevated Planet. Thank you so much for joining us on this Sunday. And today we have a really good show in store for you, and John is going to tell us some more about it.
Thank you, Jolie. Apologies for the technical difficulties there. I've got volume going on over here and all sorts. Definitely going to have to fire this technical crew again, I'm afraid, Jolie. Um, now, so today we have an exciting show for you, and thank you to all of those who have made it here today. I really appreciate you being part of our community and here for the show. So today we are going to be focusing on the work of Michael Beckwith. Before that, we've been off the show rota for the last 2 weeks, as you will be aware, as a result of the fact that I was over in Sedona at the Gregg Braden event. We're going to cover off a little bit on that today, not a lot, because I haven't had time to really pull it together into a meaningful way that will really do justice to it. But as a point of interest, while I was there, I was staying at an Airbnb, which was run by my friend Soaring Eagle, as his native name is, and Vivian, his wife, and wonderful people. And we had a whole bunch of us staying there. It was a lot of fun. And one of the things, in fact, first thing he did, he actually took 3 of us out in his big green Bentley and showed us around a bit of Sedona, and it was fantastic, and it was really generous of him to do so. I admired the hat he was wearing because it was this beautiful black hat with all these quartz crystals all the way around, and I was admiring that. And he says, you know what? He says, if you want one, I can make you one. So anyway, oh, and he was wearing this Brit Floyd shirt at the time, which I was really admiring because that's a tribute band for Pink Floyd. I'm a big fan of Pink Floyd and Brit Floyd as well. And I even saw Aussie Pink Floyd recently. Anyway, comes back to it that I was admiring his hat. He said he could make me one. Here it is. So this is me with my new look. And he even gave me a Native American name of Brit Eagle. So I am now Brit Eagle with my quartz hat. I've got lots of quartz power going on there. What do you think, Jolie?
I love it. Very good.
A lot of good energy going on there. So thank you, Soaring Eagle, from Brit Eagle. Anyway, I'm going to just start off with a little quick intro into what we're going to do today. Just a 1-minute little clip of this from where we have extracted from this week, which was the Know Thyself podcast by Andre Ducombe, who does some fantastic work. And we're going to have a link to the full the full interview on tomorrow's newsletter. And again, as ever, for anybody who wants to join our distribution list for the Elevated Planet newsletter, just send me a message on johndrew@elevatedplanet.life email, and I will add you to our list. Anyway, so bear with me a second. I am just going to link us into that first little 1-minute piece, and we will be cooking.
The soul has such infinite capacities, and we want to set that free. So many people on the planet are like bystanders to their life, and they live as a reaction to circumstances or situations. People become habituated to their limited self. We must consciously participate in our own unfolding. You're supposed to not conform, you're supposed to transform. Once an individual establishes an intention, your spiritual senses start to open. You're living more intuitively. You're living more from your soul. You can begin to affirm a different reality. It's inner work, but everybody has access to this. You have to actually go in and do 2 things. People that are in the victim state live in the question of what's wrong, who's to blame. When you ask a different kind of question, you'll become receptive and you start to get guidance. It goes back to participating in your own unfolding. There's no one like you. You sitting in your room, liberating yourself is affecting so many people. And so you have to ask, what is the gift I'm here to give? And sit with it until it talks to you.
So that's just a brief highlight of what this is about. And I've been a fan of Michael Beckwith for a while. I've seen some of his work over the last few years. and always kind of thought, yeah, one day we're going to bring him into the show. And it was only when we did one of our most recent shows that I became aware that Jolie was very familiar with his work. So Jolie, I want to bring you in to just give us a little bit of a snapshot on what you think to Michael Beckwith and your past history with him.
I find Michael Beckwith to be really very plugged into what is going on in the world today. I find him to be someone that I look to for advice. He's a wise sage and like a mentor to me through his work. I was introduced to him by a friend who was one on our site, Lori Lamson, and she was taught me so much. But one of the places that she took me, because she understood, like, you don't know anything about happiness and joy. Like, how do you expect to be doing any kind of work like this or to heal if you can't even? It was like I was Ebenezer Scrooge. So I told this story before. She took me to the Easter service, and I couldn't even, it was too much joy for me that I had to leave the venue and I had to go outside because I just couldn't take it. Like, it was just so much joy. It was Easter. So of course you're just going to be filled with celebration. So I had to step outside and she was just flabbergasted, like, what is wrong with you? Like, so that was when I knew I had to work on my joy, and I would attend Agape. And one of the things I loved about Agape was 6 a.m. they have a morning meditation. And I would go to the morning meditation. And then after that, you could go in a room and someone would individually pray for you. And you tell them what it is that you want them to pray for you for, and they pray for you. So I found this oasis in the Los Angeles, desert, a place where there were like-minded people who were looking towards having mastery over this earth plane while absorbing all of the goodness that life has to offer. So I'm just so grateful to him. And I find him and Louise Hay to be
Mm.
extremely important in my own personal development towards healing, belonging, and towards joy. So I'm really grateful to Dr. Michael Beckwith and all of the beautiful music that comes forth from his Agape event as well.
Mm. Fantastic. I think these things reached really deep, and it was interesting when we were going through this, as we have done over this last week, as to this material that we're showing today. Because it also became clear that he went through a similar kind of experience before he created the
Oh,
ministry of Agape, right? And
yes.
it was interesting that, a lot of the people that we hold up there today as mentors have been through their own dark nights of the soul, who have been there to the dark side and back again. Because again, it comes down to contrast, right? In order to get yourself to the light or wherever it is you're trying to go, you have to understand what the opposite to that is.
Exactly.
If you
But
haven't
can
experienced.
we like help to move us from the struggle and into just experiencing these epiphanies and these up levels with joy? And the way to do that is with connection. Like, we talk about the unspeakable beauty, right? Like, I'll be honest with you, I don't want to struggle anymore. I choose to have a celebration to elevate my frequency.
Absolutely. Yeah, it's all about, life, I believe, is supposed to be a celebration. So if you're not celebrating life, if we're not doing it in joy, we can do better, right? And that's what we're here for. We're here to sort of like help us and our community get to this world of unspeakable beauty that we know is there for us. It already exists in reality, and we internalize it, and we're going to make it happen. So it's exciting, and it's through the wisdom that comes from these giants that are out there, who've had struggles of their own, who've been through it, and they've created the path, which means that we don't have to necessarily sink into the struggle, because they have entrained a path for others to follow.
Yes. The flip side, though, let's honor it so that we can release it, is that there's been thousands and thousands of years of programming keeping us small. Therefore, this entrainment or practice is something that's almost necessary on a daily basis to sort of undo and remember our power and our greatness and who we are. Because once we do that, it gets easy to plug into the greatness of the universe, because now what are we doing? We're mirroring that. We believe that we deserve that. So Mother Earth shows up for us in that way.
Yeah, 100%. And it's such a good point. You know, there has been thousands of years of deliberately misaligned programming and conditioning. So it's not our fault that we're off program, right? But it is our opportunity to remember and to awaken to our greatness. But, you know, we all have different trigger points that bring us to that. And, you know, we would love to be a trigger point for some, you know, whoever is ready, this creates curiosity within, then, you know, that's our mission complete right there. So shall I crack on with our part one?
Yes, please.
Okay, here we go. Bear with me a second, folks. We're going to part one.
Many people are living by lies that they believe is true. So it does become their law. So I think that in the process of meditation, introspection, you can actually look at the lies you're telling yourself. Is what I believe, does it correspond to the universal presence? Now, the universal presence never contradicts itself nor compromises itself, and it's unlimited. So if you're telling yourself something that is limited in scope, you're lying to yourself. You see, you've overly identified with your personality and not the presence. We all have a personality, but the personality was forged by time and experience, whereas your real self is eternal and indestructible, incorruptible as well. So if you just, let's say you're having an issue and you write down, you have an issue with, let's say, prosperity, let's say, and you just write down, you know, I am full to overflowing with all of my needs being met, or something to that effect. And then you have a column called ego talk. What will come up will be the lies. Oh, you'll never be prosperous. You've come from a family that's always been poor, or there's not enough good to go around. The ego will start telling you the lies. You can actually look at them and you can say, that's not true. That's not true about God. That's not true about life. That's just what my personality or my ego believes. So what do you do with that? Now that you are aware of it, you can begin to have a different kind of inner self-talk. You can begin to affirm a different reality until you feel differently. And then that will begin to clean up that whole subconscious tendency, those particular laws, those particular lies that have become laws. It's inner work. It's not just happy talk and just saying something and it happened. You have to actually go in and do two things. You have to actually disagree, opt out of the lie, and at the same time feel your way into the feeling tone of that which is true until it becomes a practice. You see, it's like I wake up in the morning, I put my feet on the ground, and I open up and I become tremendously grateful for my life. So my whole field is gratitude. And then I'm thankful for my existence. And then I open myself up for my assignments for the day. And I ask for strength to do the assignments, but I generate a field that has nothing to do with the world. You understand? And then I watch as that field unfolds, and the things happen.
Thank you, Michael, for part one there. That was pretty good stuff. Now, a few points I wanted to make about this. The quote that he said, that we're living by lies that we believe are true. It has become our law. And again, it comes back to this thing that Joelle mentioned, that I affirmed, which is that, you know, we have been programmed and conditioned for thousands of years in a way that does not serve humanity, which makes us feel small relative to our true magnificence. So it's the great remembering. It's an opportunity to realize we're so much bigger than the false programming we've been fed for thousands of years, and using meditation and introspection to see the lies we are telling to ourselves. And, you know, we're talking about the universal presence, and In our last broadcast, we talked about the 12 universal laws. You know, this never compromises itself, and it is unlimited in its very scope. So anything that has limitations is a lie. We are, after all, immortal spirits having a human experience. And it's once we accept that as fact that life becomes an awful lot easier. We can never die. We can never die. You know, we can lose our physical presence, but, you know, our true life essence will go on, and it will go on forever. So that is kind of, you know, we can choose to enjoy this life experience and love. I love the idea of creating expansive, unlimited affirmations, and then wait for the ego talk and wait for the lies and understanding from them for what they are. So that awareness allows for renewed inner self-talk, and it allows us to feel different. Now, we're having when I was out over in America, we had a meeting with Musela Studios, who are going to help us in our expansion, which begins in the second half of 2024. We've always been slightly treading water because we've never used social media. And we knew that all along, we were told that 2024, the second half, is when things start to unfold in the world, which makes the whole Elevated Planet message a lot more of interest from a mainstream perspective. Because, you know, we've spoken about this before, chaos being a prerequisite for change. And unless you have something that upsets the balance of life, why would people think differently? Okay. I mean, you know, it took an epiphany for me going back 6 years ago to realize that life was so much bigger than I kind of realized it had been. But everybody has those trigger points. So, you know, it's going to be interesting. So the second half of this year and onwards, we're going to be working with Musela Studios production company to develop what we do, which means social media presence, which means changing the way that we have maybe the website, the way that the newsletters go out, how we can put out information there out to the wider world. And we're going to work with the two people who will be assisting us in that particular endeavor. But one of the ways we're going to set this up is we are going to abide absolutely by the 12 universal laws. You know, Jolie is going to help us by creating a guided meditation, guided visualization, so we can each visualize every single day what this is going to look like, how it's going to feel, more importantly, you know, experience it through all our senses, because that tells us where we're going. And when we have a common vision that we're working towards, we believe that there is absolutely no other choice than this for this to succeed in the way that it is always intended to succeed. We immerse ourselves in it as Elevated Planet to get to the next level. You know, any lack and limitation thinking is basically history. Limitless expansion and joy of the journey for us and our Elevated Planet community will create that world of unspeakable beauty that we keep talking about, which we know is there for us. Now, we do have to do the work. That's something that Michael Beckwith tells us. You know, this is work. This is undoing a lot of programming. As Jolie said, you know, this is a practice. You know, we can't just do it once. It's just like every day. And what was interesting about this as well is that when at the Gregg Braden event, this is just sharing a bit of Gregg wisdom here. He was explaining how, you know, manifestation actually happens and how it is a real thing. We each have within our body and within our mind is that we have the neurons, okay? And they have these mirror neurons. Mirror neurons will focus their energies upon whatever our dominant thought pattern is. And therefore, when you are creating a vision, the mirror neurons don't know the difference between reality and imagination. So by using your imagination, you create a new neural pathway by you know, planting these thoughts on a regular basis, and they have these little dendrites that sit within the neuron itself that start reaching out and connecting to other neurons. And it takes 72 hours, 3 days, to create a new neural network. Now, bear in mind, this works in two directions, or in any direction. So whatever you're focused upon, you are creating a neural network around that. So unfortunately, if you're steeped in negativity, you're creating neural pathways that are supporting that negativity. But when you turn it around and say, okay, well, what do you want your reality to look like? And you create that, and you envisage that and you sit with that within your senses, then you become what it is that you imagine. And that's the, that was Greg coming up with the science as to why this is truth and why this is reality, not just woo-woo nonsense, as Michael Beckwith says. That's what he used to talk about. He said what he used to do was used to be described as woo-woo nonsense, but now through quantum science, we now have the proof that these things actually exist. So this journey is going to be joyous, and anyone who wants to join us on the exploration and unfoldment of those 12 universal laws will be exceptionally welcome to join us. So we can get to opt out of the lie and feel that is true. So that is what I wanted to say on that. And I will invite Jolie in to share thoughts around that now.
Yes, absolutely. And being unspeakable beauty is like a question mark. What does that look like? Right? To bring that in. And it's very unique for each individual. But I find that sometimes where that's buried is underneath all the anger that we have as these souls in these meat bags, right? Who have to have, or who've opted to have these experiences of learning. So it's like the reason that you'll notice you're driving or you're doing something rote, and you have these pictures of your past come up, right? Or you'll have these pictures of a situation or experience. That right there is a trigger, or that right there is something that your soul and spirit is asking you to deal with, because up underneath that is a pattern of something. So when we start to learn how to get up underneath and utilize the things the spirit is sending us, that is our path and our journey towards that unspeakable beauty, and towards us sort of taking on what we talk about, those 72 hours to get those new neural pathways. But when you're in an environment where you are forced to be there, almost, you have a job, a career where you're like, oh, I'm just kind of being unintentional, this is what I need to do, and then now you're 30 years old and you're like, wait a minute, I didn't sign up for this.
Right.
Somewhere along the way, you stopped listening, right? So now it's time to rewind that tape a little bit, go back and deal with that, and remove that from your system. Learn how to recognize within you. And sometimes it's difficult because we sit in denial. It's not easy to say, you know what, I am this type of person. That may be a negative adjective or something that society has said, oh, you're a hater. Maybe I need to deal with that, because up underneath that is my gold, is my deservedness. Because when you get into you stop worrying about what everybody else is doing. You really stop managing other people and you start managing the spirit within you. That is your path to unspeakable beauty. So, quote unquote, the Karen energy, let that to the side and Karen yourself, because listen at that name for a second. Karen, right? There's a part of that person that is caring for something. It may be misguided, but within you is power. It's power to move mountains, to where you don't have to start invading or other people's space, and you don't have to allow them to invade yours. You just move and you flow with the universe, right? In a very joyful and caring way, but knowing yourself. So I hope that helps, because I know for me, a period of time I had, why are these pictures showing up? Why do I keep having these memories come back to me? Because you need to deal with them.
Yes. Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Very well said. It's a journey that we're all on, right? And actually learning to identify these things can save us a lot of time and enable us to move forward.
Right. Because up underneath that stuff is where, the presence is at, or the real you. But once you have changed your perspective because you've made those experiences mean something, now you're starting to cloud up who you really are. So I encourage you to get to the core of that. And it's okay. Take the time that you need. Sometimes it's definitely a very singular experience. You don't need an audience for this type of work, you know?
Yeah, absolutely. Yes, yes, so much work you can do there, and it's such a fulfilling thing. I think is one of the things I've found is that when you're going within, when you're doing your meditation work and stuff. And 6 years ago, to me, this was nonsense, right? Now,
Hmm.
to me, it was woo-woo, and now I kind of know that, one of the most fun experiences of the day is going within and just feeling the joy. But I've had to learn that, right? And I'm still a work in progress, and I will be till the day I leave the planet, I think. But it's a joyous journey. So, but yeah.
I have a question for you though. Do you
Hmm.
remember before you started meditating and now? Would you say that there's a difference in your attitude, perspective, the way that what has changed since you started, would you say?
One of the things is that I feel a lot more fulfilled and relaxed about life in general. Because for the point that I mentioned earlier, I now know that I cannot die. I have no zero fear of death. And also, when I hear about things that are being foisted on us through the mainstream media, for instance, I don't concern myself in the same way that I used to. For a start, like, yes, you can feel kindness and compassion towards those who are struggling, and there's plenty of them who are. But one of the things I do know is that because of life path planning, that you come in here with a particular agenda, and quite often that agenda might be to die in war, okay, to act as a catalyst for other people to awaken. So when you look at these things now, you kind of look at it through a slightly different lens. You still feel kindness, you feel compassion, you feel grief sometimes for those who are losing people. But nevertheless, you know that those who've gone actually are, they are immortal spirits having what was a human experience, and they've gone back home, and they've
Yes.
fulfilled their life purpose. So you look at these things through a different lens, and you realize this is all a learning journey where, but it is, it's the meditation, it's all that inner focus that's enabled me now to come to a point where, I've not lost kindness, I've not lost the compassion, but I kind of just view it through a different, bigger, wider lens,
Yeah.
knowing that I am part of something so much bigger, and it's joyous.
Yeah.
To your point, that's where it's taken me.
I feel as if meditation, what you're saying is it's giving you like a spiritual footing or safety net. It's like, you can always go here to go back into harmony with yourself and the world around you. And that's something that we don't have after thousands of years of programming. We all are reaching back to the indigenous because they had a way to harmonize themselves with the universe, their own team and tribe around them. And so that's what we're seeking to do. That unspeakable beauty speaks to us having that spiritual safety net where we can harmonize and integrate each other and
Yeah.
the world around us. And that's really what meditation is here to do. So,
Yeah, absolutely. And that indigenous wisdom, right? It's it's
mhm.
it's there, and that was very much in evidence in Sedona and the surrounding area as well. Is there's a lot of indigenous wisdom there amongst the people, certainly within the tribes that are still out there, and it's a
And the
beautiful
beauty
thing.
is just stepping on the land is we talk about bringing in the wisdom of just stepping on that land is enough to ding, ding, ding.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. Grounding into that energy that's there is a
Yes.
beautiful thing. So yeah, it was an honor and a privilege to be there, and I do fully intend to go back there again at some point. Yeah. Okay. Thank you, Jolie. Shall we crack on with the next part?
Absolutely.
Right. Here we go, everybody. Hang on to your hats.
So many people on the planet are like bystanders to their life, and they basically live as a reaction to circumstances or situations, people, places, and events. To consciously, and we're at the stage of our unfoldment where we must consciously participate in our own unfolding. We have we're made in the image and likeness of God. What that means to me, I mean, God is formless. It's a presence. It's a love. It's beauty. It's not like a man somewhere. But what that means to be made in the image and likeness, it means you have the capacity to think independent of circumstances. So you actually can pull your attention away from circumstances and have a new thought, an inspiration. So to consciously participate in your own unfolding means that you can actually participate in this evolutionary urge that's within you and set it free and become better versions of yourself. You don't have to wait for a circumstance to change or another person to change, or you don't have to wait for a government to change. You can actually participate in your own unfolding. And that's where we are as a species, to participate at that level rather than to wait to see what's going to happen.
It feels like more now than ever, society pulls us into a slumber because we have so much more comfort and convenience than ever before, which is beautiful. Would you say that there's more things you have to guard yourself now to be able to really be in the participation of paying attention to how your life wants to unfold in that way?
Yeah, it's a combination. One, there's a lot of distractions. You know, the world is full of distractions. And also, I believe we're on the verge of more awakening that's happening now. So on one level, it's more difficult because of distractions, but on another level, it's easier because you have more and more people that are articulating some way, shape, form, or another that you can participate in your own growth. I mean, you go back 30, 40 years ago, some of the things I was teaching was woo-woo. Now it's science, you know. So because of that vibrational footprint of so many people participating, meditation, life visioning, yoga, qigong, you know, so many different things, that's creating a vibrational footprint for more people to come into that frequency. So on one level, it's difficult because of the crisis we're facing. On another level, it's easier because there's so many more people involved now.
How do you see the process then of us habituating into our smallness? If there's this infinite light within us that wants to express creatively in service to the world, but we have these ideologies, dogmas, belief that shrink us down into a mold that is conforming to society or fits the economic machine,
right,
but that, you know, holds that light in. How do you see that happening, and how do we guard ourselves from that continuing to happen?
I think when you look at the propaganda, you look at the media, which is like nefarious hypnotism, the whole media, and this is with all governments pretty much, is to shrink people into being consumers, pretty much, and to fit into a mold that can be controlled. So once you know it and you see it operating, then it has less power over you. But people unconsciously like to conform. They don't want to be outliers, you see. So they'll conform into a kind of a group think about a particular thing. You know, nations will think alike, you know, to a degree, and now we're in great polarization, which I think is kind of good for the evolution of the species. But so we have nefarious hypnotism that's trying to get to habituate us into those smaller versions of ourselves. But once an individual establishes an intention, and their main intention is to become, I want to grow. I want to be a greater version of myself. I want to contribute to the planet. When an individual establishes that kind of intention, they become available to inspiration. They become available to guidance. They become available to wisdom from their soul that comes in a language and in a way that they can understand and begin to act upon. Now, interestingly enough, most people come through that door through a crisis of some kind. You know, many people come through it, like inside they'll have an aha moment, a satori, oh my God, you know. But many people come through it because they're sick and tired of their life, you know, and then they become available. But you are correct. People become habituated to their limited self. Habits are good if, in fact, it's a habit for transformation. But just run-of-the-mill habits keep people small. Yeah.
I remember one of the first impactful audios that I listened to was by Earl Nightingale, which is the strangest secret, that talks about how the opposite of courage is not cowardice, but conformity. Yes. And living in a society where it's so easy to conform and it's painful to stand out in many different ways. It's upon us more now than ever to have an intention and vision for our life. And I really love how you speak to that intention deficit disorder that we have.
Absolutely. Well, that's where many people live. People will wake up in the morning and they really don't have an intention. You know, they're just going to react to whatever's going on at the office, whatever's going on with traffic, whatever's going on. But without an intention, you know, you're just kind of being buffeted around by the world. So most people, I don't like to use the word most, but in this case, so many people walking asleep that have an intention deficit disorder. And until a crisis happens. Then they say, well, I should have had a V8. I should have been doing something else. But yeah, we want to establish an intentional life. You know, you want to wake up with intention. You want to be specific about your intention. You know, whether it's the healing of your body, whether it's what gift you're going to give to the planet. How can I activate the gifts that are within me and share them? You have to have an intention above and beyond consumerism and just buying stuff that's going to be in the landfill in 10, 20 years now. Anyway, it has to be, the soul has such infinite capacities, and we want to set that free. And it's the only way to fly for bliss and joy and ecstasy, actually.
Just basically, I do love that, you know, becoming conscious participants in our own unfolding. I think that was a really good way of putting it. Avoiding the distractions that are out there all the time through a lot of the mainstream media, which is designed to distract us away from what is really important. Okay, so I think that is a really, really very valid point. So the awakening of humanity is happening. And as he said, the woo-woo of the past is now the quantum science of today. And we're raising the frequency. I love the phrase nefarious hypnotism of the media that's out there, whether social media, whether mainstream media. There's a reason we've not been involved in social media to this point, because, you know, there's a lot of good things with social media. It's the only reason we're able to get this program out there now. But there is a lot of disinformation, and there is a lot of negativity within it as well. Intentions and inspiration. And often he said it takes a crisis, which is why it comes back to this thing that we've mentioned quite regularly within Elevated Planet, which is chaos is often a prerequisite for change. And, you know, maybe that is where we're heading right now. Maybe the next few years really truly unveil something that is chaotic to the degree that people cannot stay with the beliefs of old, which is going to be a challenge of its own. But at this point, we are still, as a humanity, walking asleep, although we are starting to wake up. So talking about establishing an intentional life, you know, it's the only way to fly for bliss, joy, and ecstasy. And who wouldn't want that? So having that intentional life, waking up in the morning, feeling the gratitude, asking the question, what is it I can do today that will, you know, what it's going to be, whether it's serving humanity, serving self, what is it that's going to inspire? But anyway, Jolie, what would you like to add?
You know, inspiration definitely can come from without, but it mostly comes from within. It's like you're bringing something in and you're applying it to you. Like, even when you're listening to music and you're inspired, right? It's usually something you can relate to that drops you into either a positive or a negative experience. And so in our lives, let's take some of these inspirational moments, and maybe they are the struggle, but it's like, imagine we're programmed to see these instances where there is this struggle, and we say, you know what, the resilience of the human spirit requires that I get up and I have the courage to move on. And oftentimes, in order to be a maverick, there is a lack of conformity. There's more of this. I like to say, I've learned from my mentors that in order to break the rules, you first must have mastery over them. So Michael Beckwith is going to go more into conformity and, you know, other things, but just know that part of us wants to belong, but after you understand yourself and the laws of the universe, it's really time to break out on your own and forge your own path. But there's a skill set and a way to do that, right? That brings about joy and brings about a positive experience rather than an unintentional experience that I like to call like the pinball of life. You know how you play the pinball machine and you have those, and wherever you hit the ball, that's where it goes. And it's like, you can live your life like that, or you can live it with intention.
Yeah.
So.
Yes. Well said. Now that's a good image there. I spent a lot of my life on the pinball machine.
Yeah. Being the pinball machine. Yeah. And the pinball machine.
Being a little ball bearing, shooting around the place, not knowing quite what was going to happen next. Hey, but
Exactly.
all right. So we learn and we grow. Should we crack on with the next section?
Yes.
Right, here we go.
Yeah.
Have you found in your own path, in your own life, in your own evolution, that there's an effective way to merge your own intention that you consciously create and also like the divine intention for your path's evolution, like the divine will and your will, how they can kind of merge into being one and find alignment within that?
Your heart's desire and the divine will are the exact same thing. They're not separate. So the idea is people sometimes live from immature wanting that they inherited from the world, maybe from their parents, religions, the society, and they think that's what they want, but they don't know where they got that from. It just, somebody told you this is what you're supposed to do. But your heart's desire, that which is coming from your soul, and the divine will, they're the exact same things. The divine will wants to individualize itself as us, and we want to universalize our individual self. So it's inside the glass and outside the glass. You can't have one without the other, you know. So the universal wants to individualize, and the individual wants to universalize. So it's the same will. The smaller will is something that we've inherited from the world. You know, you should go be a doctor, or you should, you should do this with your life. How do you know whether that's you or a parent telling you what you should be when you grow up, you see? But so you have to listen. And the difficulty is that most people live from the sensorium, the five senses, which is just to help you navigate through 3D. And the spiritual sense, of which the five senses they're prosthetics of the internal sense of seeing the invisible, hearing the inaudible. So when you begin to ask certain questions and begin to be sincere about the divine will flowing through you, your spiritual senses start to open and you start to live more intuitively. It still compels you into action, but you're living more intuitively. You're living more from your soul, living more from, this path that I'm walking in is a path that no one else has walked in exactly like me, because there is no one exactly like me. But as we talked about earlier, people want to conform. You're supposed to not conform. You're supposed to transform your life,
Brief stopping point here. I love this thing about the heart's desire relative to immature wanting, because we're encouraged into the immature wanting as a result of our programming and conditioning. So, what is it about the heart? Because, the heart, and this is one of the things that I learned when I was on the Gregg Braden retreat. And I heard this before, but again, Gregg puts things across very, very well. And he was talking about the heart. It's more than just this biological pump. It actually has a significant amount of neurons there. It's effectively, it's the motherboard that attaches us to our soul aspect. So the heart has a vast amount of intelligence and is way more magnetically powerful than our brain or any other part of our body. So the heart is very, very important. And one of the things that Gregg was teaching us to do was with a couple of questions that you would ask your heart. So you would put your hand on your heart and you would ask these questions. Of course, you have to be in your meditative state. You have to go within first. But then you would ask the question. One question was, my heart, what do you want me to know? Okay, and you listen for the answer. You feel the answer. And then you would also ask the question, my heart, what do you need from me? And then, once again, you listen for the answer. And, we were doing this by way of as a group kind of meditation thing at the time in the auditorium. It really, this is profound stuff. And, linking into what Michael's talking about with what Gregg was talking about, I see there's, we're all, they're singing from the same hymn sheet. Different words, but this is getting to the same place. And I think that what he talks about there, what Michael talks about here is wonderful. This is your connection to your divinity, is your heart. And I love the fact that he said, we're not here to conform, we're here to transform. So, as part of this Elevated Planet community, we are here to transform because, again, we come back to our mission statement, which is all about the secret of change. The secret of change is not to waste your energy on fighting the old. It is on building the new. And that is where we're heading with this. So, Jolie, what would you like to say about that?
That is correct. I really appreciate that. And I'm learning more about we always think we need to go. Sometimes even I spoke about that. If you have these pictures or these instances that keep coming up in your life while you're doing rote things, right? Driving, washing dishes, you need to kind of deal with that issue. But on the flip side of that, it's about stepping into the new. It really is. And being like, okay, this picture's here. Thank you so much for teaching me what you needed to teach me. I really don't care anymore. Go away. And then step into what you want, meaning I would love more abundance, or I am abundance would be a better way of looking at things. And then you go outside and you say, I can't count all the leaves on that tree. I can't count all the grains of sand. Even in your home, how many stitchings in your carpet, or how many, like immense amounts of things going on around you to prove to you that abundance is everywhere. You are abundance. So it's remembering to step into the spirituality and the teachings of Mother Earth where you're at. The 12 laws of the universe, right? But you're here on Mother Earth. So find that here in your own zone. The abundance is all around you. Polarity. I live in a place where there's water and mountains. Well, how amazing is that? I have the best of both worlds around me, right? Dig into that, lean into, step into, revel in the beauty that is Mother Earth, because she has so much to give us. And he talks about, he's going to talk about this in a minute, and I love it. Even he is explaining he's going to prove that what John and I are talking about, it does have weight. So I'm going to just leave that there.
Okay.
And we'll let Michael tell us, Mr.
Excellent.
Dr. Beckwith.
So this last section is about the dark night of the soul, the crucial transformation. And I definitely can't say any better than Michael Beckwith. So I'm going to leave it very much to Dr. Michael Beckwith and to Jolie to follow up on it. So bear with me a second. We'll be cracking on with that now.
Dark night of the soul is a crucial bowl of transformation in which you are releasing a part of your identity that you're cherishing, that you really think this is you, but it's dying. And so this ego blindness, meaning that the light is so bright it blinds the ego, and so you're in a period of no man's land, no woman's land. It's just the new hasn't emerged yet, but the old is dying. You feel cut off, bereft. It's nasty, it's, but you have to walk through that door. Some people can do it dramatically. Some people do it incrementally. Like if you get on the spiritual path, there's going to be parts of you that you cherish that are going to die because they're not you. You inherited them. You created them to survive in the world. But when they begin to die and the new hasn't emerged yet, it's very dark. And in certain monasteries, and they won't even let you read about the dark night of the soul because they don't want you to use your imagination and conjure it up, and have a false one. They let it just happen as it's supposed to happen. But the dark night of the soul is not what happens if you lose your job, if your mate dies, bad things that happen. That's not the dark night. It's dark. It's sadness. But the dark night is debilitating, and you don't know how long it's going to last. But when you come out of it, you are different. You're more in tune with your real nature and being, and not the part of you that you made, that you created, from being in your family, and the experiences that you had is totally different.
When did that happen for you?
Oh, let me see. I had a dark night pre the founding of Agape. I didn't start Agape until a number of years after I was on this path. And I can remember literally crawling to the place where I meditate. I mean, I was so cut off from everything. And I remember a voice saying to me, saying really in my head, I don't want to be this spiritual. It was screaming out, I don't want to be this spiritual. And it was very dark and very dank. And then at a certain point, it was also made me focus on all my foibles. I was focused on every mistake I'd ever made in life. And I remember at one point, a light got turned. It was like a light went on. Everything lit up. It was like, wow. And I realized I got a chance to see myself the way I was being seen by the universe, which was light and magnificent. It was beautiful. And an interesting thing happened. That was on a Wednesday. I'll always remember this, on a Wednesday. And I'd been invited to speak somewhere. I didn't have Agape, and I just went. And this energy just flowed through me. I started speaking. It was like magnificent. And a part of my ego said, wow, this is beautiful. I've arrived, kind of vibe. The very next week it happened again. I went right back into the darkness. This same thing. And I realized it was a process I was still in. And eventually I passed through it, and I was more me than before.
It really seems like at that time you're just in the depth of like the soil and a new seed is being planted, but you can't see it emerging yet. You just have to have trust in that faith.
It's dark. It's the void of creation. It's deep. It's dark. But the sense of separation is so real, because it takes away everything you believed. You can't live on your belief. But when you come out of it, it's not belief anymore. It's like you know something. If you're going to school and your professor says to you, or your teacher says 2 + 2 is 4, you believe. Yeah, and you can 2 + 2 is 4. Yeah, you go home and recite it to your mother and everything. But at a certain point, you have to actually know what that means, beyond belief. So when you go through the dark night, your beliefs get so challenged. But when you come out of it, you actually know something, and it's unshakable. It's unshakable. The presence for me, it's just real. It's not something I read about in a book. It's real.
Would you say true wisdom born out of that experience is like completely different than knowledge that's accumulated? Like, you feel like wisdom really comes out of that time?
Yeah, I mean, there's things that your memory can hold on to in terms of intellectual things. Yeah. But there's two aspects of who you get wisdom from. One is going through an experience and actually coming out and knowing something. It's actually 3 levels. The next level you get it from is there are people that have walked the planet that have impacted the noosphere, the mental atmosphere of the planet. That energy is still there, and you can catch it. You can sit and you can contemplate and become inspired by it. And then thirdly, you can catch insight. When you meditate, you can actually have an insight. An insight is an event that takes place in your consciousness where you suddenly or incrementally know something you formerly believed. So you're actually sitting for an insight. So I'll tell people, I'll put people in meditation sometimes and have them feet go to the center of the earth and open up to all of the wisdom born from human experience. And then I have them go through the top of their head into infinity and open themselves up and catch the transformational knowledge and wisdom and insight just from their being as a spiritual being. It's like a remembering, so you can get it both ways. Yeah. But you have to be really interested.
Yeah. That really rings true, that you can become such a vessel, a hollow bone for the wisdom that is all around you, for that insight to occur and for you to know something that it's unlike a belief, where a belief I say often as a pacifier for insecurity of not knowing,
Yeah.
where we feel like we need to believe things.
Yeah.
But you're speaking about like a deep gnosis that we can arrive at.
Yes, absolutely. I call belief a placeholder for knowing. And you believe this until you know it. So what a true belief does, it gives you a direction for practicing. So you practice your belief until insight occurs, and then you know it. And you can't take it. You can't. It's there forever if you really know something.
We're just going to do, if we don't have too much time, we have 4 minutes. So I would really like to put on the table that people really work with their ego and do that meditation that he said, which is, bringing in abundance and putting down all of the things that come up in your mind when you see yourself in abundance. What are all the limiting beliefs? Write those down, work with them. And in the meantime, what you want to do as a practice throughout your day or when you wake up in the morning is open your feet and bring in that earth energy and bring in some gold light as well into the crown. You open your feet in your crown like you would the lens of a camera, and let that earth energy and that divine life force energy meet and integrate all the wisdom and knowledge so that you can apply it to you. So as you enter that field of gratitude when you wake up and you expand into being so grateful for Mother Earth and so grateful for the presence of the divine universe, and have that energy swirling around with you so that throughout your day, you move in a way that not only brings and you receive joy and abundance, but you're spreading that around. And we know that once we practice and entrain this on a regular basis, it becomes our baseline of energy and of the way in which we perceive and live life. Okay? So that's just kind of what I want to lay on the table for you guys since we are at our 10 o'clock moment.
Yes.
But we do have meditations on our elevated planet, and we will be back in weeks coming with more meditations. But for now, just bring in the wisdom of Mother Earth and bring in the wisdom of the masters and the divine creator to fill you up.
Yeah, absolutely. And to that point as well, Jolie, we've got one of your soul beauty meditations on the newsletter tomorrow as well. So people will have that to access. And once again, anybody that wants to join our distribution list, just drop me an email to johndrew@elevatedplanet.life, or you can go onto our elevatedplanet.life website, and there is a contact page where you can just drop us your details there for your email address, and we will make sure you join our list. So yeah, fantastic. Thank you, Jolie. And that one, and you and I talked about this before the show, just to say that, this one of the things we're encouraged into at the moment is this feeling of lack and limitation. Many people are being squeezed financially, and it's very difficult to get out of that lack kind of feeling. And he really kind of came up with the affirmation, which was, I am full to overflowing with all of my needs being met. Very simple, very straightforward, but it's when you get that into the senses, and that's what we're talking about in future. Jolie suggested, let's put it on as a ticker. This kind of thing, these little inspirational quotes, it lives with us for a while and marinades. And I love that idea, Jolie.
Yeah, and to see what comes up when you are met with that. Who do you hear? Those voices. Get rid of them.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. When the ego voice comes in, then identifying that blocks your, your unlimited ability to create the life you want. What is it that's getting in the way? And then you can kind of move it to one side. You see it for what it is. Fantastic. Okay. Well, thank you, Jolie. That was great. Really appreciate that. Thank you to Michael Beckwith as well for his inspiration, and a bit of Greg Braden. Greg Norman's a golfer. We won't be doing any work on the work of Greg Norman anytime soon. But Greg Braden, yes, we will come back to Greg and do a little bit more justice to the retreat that I attended last week, which was really fantastic. So, okay. Thank you again, Jolie.
Thank you. And thank you to the community for joining us today.
Yeah, truly appreciate it, particularly also to our new members as well. Got a few new members in here as well. And once we get into the second half of 2024, and we are working with Museless Studios production company to expand our reach, then we're going to be truly all living the dream together.
Yes.
Heading towards a world of unspeakable beauty. So there you go. We're on our way.
All right.
So till next week, goodbye. Take care.
Bye-bye.
Lots of love.